All right, let's get right into it. The stock market. We all know it's one of the best ways to build real wealth. But let's be honest, for a lot of people, it feels like this exclusive club, with a secret handshake and a rule book you're not allowed to see. It can feel super intimidating, especially when you hear those crazy stories about scandals and corruption. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Is the stock market a fair game for everyone, or is it fundamentally rigged against the little guy? I mean, we all remember hearing about Bernie Madoff, and it's easy to get the feeling that Wall Street is just playing a completely different game. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on.
When you boil it down, it really does feel like that classic David versus Goliath story. On one side, you've got the retail investor. That's you, that's me, investing our own hard-earned savings, getting our info from public sources. And on the other side, you've got the Wall Street giants. They're not just managing billions of dollars. They have huge teams of analysts and, a whole lot of political influence. So let's break down Goliath's advantages, one by one.
First up, and this one's a biggie, is the information advantage. In the market today, knowledge isn't just power, it is profit. So the real question is, who's getting the best information? And when? Look, as an individual investor, you've got the internet, and that's a massive equalizer, for sure. But what you probably don't have is a team of PhDs in a back room building you sophisticated trading algorithms, or a whole research department that's giving you exclusive reports. And that creates a very real gap. There's actually an economic term for this. It's called asymmetric information. It's a fancy way of saying one side just plain knows more than the other. And while something like illegal insider trading is what grabs headlines, there's this huge gray area where the pros have a massive and perfectly legal edge when it comes to information. And that brings up a really crucial point. It's not just about what they know, it's about when they know it. A big firm's top clients might get tipped off about a huge analyst upgrade hours or even just minutes before that news hits the public wires. In a game where every second counts, that's an eternity. All right, let's move on to the second major hurdle. And this one is pretty straightforward. The raw power of money. We're talking about the capital advantage. I love this analogy because it just makes so much sense. Think about it. A small corner store just can't get the same wholesale prices as a giant like Walmart, right? Because when you buy in bulk, you get a better deal. Well, that exact same logic applies on Wall Street. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, for starters, huge institutions can negotiate rock-bottom fees on their trades, saving millions. But even more important, they get first dibs on the hottest IPOs. That's when a company goes public. The big hedge funds and pension funds get offered those shares first. By the time that IPO is available to you, you kind of have to wonder, why did the big guys pass on it? Okay, so we've got information and we've got capital. But there's a third advantage, one that's a little more behind the scenes: political influence. Just think about that for a second. The answer for pretty much all of us is zero, right? We hope our elected officials are looking out for us. But the financial industry? They don't just hope. They actively spend millions upon millions of dollars on lobbyists to make sure their voice is heard loud and clear. And that's really the bottom line. They have a seat at the table when the actual rules of the financial game are being written or changed. Now, this isn't to say everything is corrupt, but it does mean their interests are always well represented where it matters most. So I know this all sounds a little grim, doesn't it? We're up against disadvantages in information, capital, and politics. But the story does not end there, because now we get to talk about how you fight back. Let's talk about leveling that playing field. The game is absolutely tilted, there's no doubt about it, but it is not unbeatable. The modern retail investor has some seriously powerful tools and strategies at their disposal. You just need to know how to use your slingshot against Goliath. So here it is, a simple 3-step game plan. First, you've got to use the internet for all it's worth. There's so much good research out there now. Second, and this is maybe the most important, you have to manage your risk using tools like stop losses. And third, if you can't beat the big money, learn how to track it and follow where it's flowing. Let's just double-click on that second point for a second. A stop-loss order is basically your financial safety net. Before you even buy a stock, you decide the absolute maximum you're willing to lose on it. If the stock price falls and hits that number, your broker automatically sells it. It's all about discipline and preventing one bad decision from wiping you out. So, we've looked at the advantages the big guys have, and we've talked about the strategies you can use to counter them. Where does that leave us? What's the final verdict here? Well, here it is. The market isn't technically rigged, and that's because there are powerful watchdogs like the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Their entire job is to protect investors like you and me and to keep the markets fair. The system has referees. So when you put it all together, it looks like this. Yes, the giants have their information imbalances, massive capital, and political influence. But you have your own weapons. You can fight their info edge with modern research tools, their massive capital with smart, nimble strategy, and their political influence with your own risk management and discipline. Sometimes, your discipline is way more powerful than their dollars. So now, the playing field is not perfectly level. Anyone who tells you that isn't being honest. But it is playable. And now, you have a much better understanding of the playbook. You know the challenges, but you also know the strategies to take them on. So the only real question left is, are you ready to get in the game?